episode, I'm thrilled to introduce you to Rose Bailey, the Fundraising and Engagement Manager for Sussex and Surrey. Young Lives vs Cancer are the UK's leading charity for children and young people under the age of 25 with cancer.
First got an insight and a kind of glimpse into fundraising and the charity world when I was 15. It's amazing how many people just don't really know that childhood cancer is a thing. On average, families are spending £600 a month more when a child has cancer.
Gosh.
We just don't want cancer to destroy lives or destroy futures. We want to be there to then help them kind of rebuild their lives so they do have a future after cancer. And people can do a really small little event that can raise, 50 quid or 100 quid, but actually collectively that is going to have a huge impact. So I decided to run a marathon within 7 days. I think for some people it will probably be doable, but I was not a runner at all before. So I just thought, you know what, let's do this. A large part of my role is celebrating the successes and shouting about what people are doing. Speaking to the social workers on the front line and just, hearing the amazing work that they do on a day-to-day basis. I think that is definitely what drives me daily to want to be the best at my job, raise as much money as I can. We need the support of volunteers, basically. Often there are tears because you never know who's going to pick up the phone and what story you'll hear and how powerful that will be. But they're just amazing. They are superheroes in my eyes.
In this episode, I'm thrilled to introduce you to Rose Bailey, the Fundraising and Engagement Manager for Sussex and Surrey at Clic Sargent. Clic Sargent Young Lives vs Cancer are the UK's leading charity for children and young people under the age of 25 with cancer. They provide emotional, practical and financial support to children, young people and their families to try and limit the damage that cancer causes outside of their health. Clic Sargent is a charity that is very close to my heart, and it's been an absolute honour to represent them over the last 5 years at various sporting events in memory of my friend Rob. Their work is truly life-changing, and it's been a joy to collaborate with Rose over the last year on various fundraising projects. Rose is such a creative and positive force to be around. It's nearly impossible not to get swept up in her passion for fundraising. And no matter what crazy fundraising idea I've come up with and shown to her, it's always met with enthusiasm. And she's the first person to say, let's make it happen. I'm so thankful that she is part of my community and my kind of people. And I know she will be your kind of person too. So welcome to the podcast, Rose Bailey.
Yay, what an introduction. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
It's an absolute honour to be on your podcast. And thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're so welcome. And I'm so grateful that we can come together and talk about Clic Sargent on the platform some more, because it really is incredible work that the charity does. So we've gotten to know each other through Clic Sargent, but how did we first cross paths? I feel like I would have either been very sweaty after a run, or I would have sent a very silly email to your inbox with some crazy ideas. So which one was it?
I think it was your radio marathon in the garden, because obviously with lockdown and everything being postponed, seize the opportunity and thought, how can I do something? How can I do some fundraising in this environment? And you decide to do your 24-hour radio marathon while running a marathon at the same time?
Yes.
That's the one. As you do. I can't remember how exactly I found out about it, but I just thought, oh, wow, this girl is amazing.
Or I think maybe you gave me a phone call in the supermarket. Was that how it started? Possibly. I feel like I might have got a call maybe, and you're like, hey, what's up? What's going on? That's
right. I was like, tell me all of your plans, because this sounds amazing. I want to shout about it as much as I can and get everyone behind you. So that's right.
Yeah, I was that old girl running around in my garden for a little while. And true to form, you were like, perfect, let's make it happen.
Absolutely. And I told everyone at Clic Sargent about what you're doing, and everyone just thought, this is legendary.
Well, thank you for always being such a champion. And before we learn more about your work at Clic Sargent, I would love the community to learn a little bit more about you as a person. So where have you grown and flown? Where was your hometown, and where would you consider home now?
Well, my hometown is Chichester in West Sussex. So yeah, born in Chichester, went to Exeter University, and then I studied Spanish. So I had a lovely 4-year course, lived in Spain for a year.
Wow.
Then I went to London, I think every time kind of Chichester got a bit small for me, I wanted something a little bit more. So I went to Exeter. That got a bit small for me, obviously quite a small town. And then I was ready for London. And then after 6 years in London, I realised, actually, I'm a bit of a country girl. I love the South Downs. I love the beach. I miss just having all that on the doorstep. So now I'm back.
There we go. There's nothing quite like home.
I've done the full circle and I couldn't be happier.
Yeah, absolutely. And where in that full circle journey did you start to develop your passion for fundraising? Was that something you've always been passionate about?
It is actually. It's something I first got an insight and a kind of glimpse into fundraising and the charity world when I was 15. And a man called John Hunt, who is an absolute star, I love him to bits, he came to our school. Mm-hmm. And he ran kind of like an overseas project in India. So you could go and support, it was like building an orphanage, that kind of project. And he came to the school. It was him who set up it was quite a small charity at the time. And he came and talked to us about it. And it was also like a self-development kind of program as well. He wanted to really kind of make us become the best people that we could be. So I saw this sounds fantastic. And my mum, absolutely encouraged me to sign up. So there were 4 of us that signed up for it. And it was just brilliant. We spent the year fundraising, kind of coached by John and his small team. All sorts of different kind of ways of fundraising. And then at the end of the year, we went to India for 2 weeks and completed the project. Wow.
And you went with your mum as well?
No, I didn't go with my mum. She just kind of encouraged me to sign up. And
amazing.
It sounds incredible.
That does sound incredible. And what has fundraising meant to you personally? Why do you think it's such an important contribution to the world?
I think it can have such a huge impact on people who, whether it's people in a less fortunate situation or people going through, at Clic Sargent, people are going through kind of the toughest of times. And often that financial support can really alleviate a lot of the stress and worry that they're kind of experiencing. So I think I've just seen in many different situations how a little bit of a boost at a time when people really need it can have such a huge impact on those people. I worked in higher education fundraising before coming to Clic Sargent. Mm-hmm. That was kind of supporting students from lower income backgrounds. That was mainly what I did. And just seeing the remarkable impact that grants, hardship grants or scholarships could have on their progression and their lives. It was just, absolutely phenomenal. So it's definitely, that's something that kind of motivates me to work in this sector.
Yeah, 100%. And I think I've always been someone who's so fascinated growing up with superheroes, right? And everyone has this superpower. And in films, you see it's this big dramatic event of saving lives. But I think what I find so powerful about fundraising is realizing that there's so many little things that we can all do to feel like a superhero,
Just it. Yeah. It's not, people can do a really small little event that can raise, 50 quid or 100 quid, but actually collectively that is going to have a huge impact. So I think that's just it, inspiring people to realize that bake sale that might only raise £50, that's £50 the charity wouldn't have. And that's, £33 can pay for a night in one of our homes from homes. Mm-hmm. So a night where families can stay right next to their child in hospital. And you think, that's an amazing gift to them. So yeah.
Yeah, for something that seems maybe little or insignificant to others, I certainly come across with the charity where someone's gone, I only did this, I only did that. And you're thinking, well, that's a huge thing to someone else, what you're providing. And collectively, that's massive.
Yeah, 100%. Especially at the moment with everything happening and the kind of the situation that the charity's in, like a lot of charities, we're facing a huge drop in our income, 60%. So it really is now more than ever, every little really, really does help.
Yeah, absolutely. And personally, anyone running a bake sale is a superhero to me because I love a good bake sale.
I know. It's just such a shame at the moment we can't do them well.
I know more regularly, but at school, the excitement of a bake sale and 50p seemed like I was on the Forbes rich list, to be honest, at that time.
I was always that one that I was never that good at baking. unfortunately. So I'd like have to go and buy something down the shop and kind of the dodgy mini rolls at the end. And everyone's like,
it's the taking part that counts. And I was always the enthusiastic consumer. You can't be every roll. You need someone to bake them, someone to eat them, and we just fulfilled that part of the role.
Everyone's happy.
Yeah, exactly. I'll happily buy the cakes. So you mentioned people like John that were a huge inspiration to you. Did you have anyone else or any other causes that inspired you growing up?
I'd say that John was probably my biggest inspiration in terms of kind of charity work and also like personal development and leadership, because we did within that 2 weeks, it was kind of, this self-development program where every day a different person would be the leader for the day. And I just hadn't really done that before, that kind of personal development stuff. And then also I kept in touch with him for years on. Amazing. So he always checked in and, how's it going? What are you up to? And then obviously I entered the fundraising world. So he was really interested to hear how I was getting on. So he's definitely been someone that's kind of stayed with me throughout. And he's still doing this amazing work in India at the moment. He's just absolutely fantastic. I think it's my mum, I'd say, would always encourage me to say yes to everything. So she's a big inspiration. She never, any idea I came home with, or Mum, I want to do this India project sounds great. She just said, yes, go for it. You've got to say yes to everything. So I think that was a big boost.
Yeah, and it's passed on because you've definitely been my yes girl, Rose.
You've been my yes girl.
So that's incredible, and that must have been such a beautiful kind of full circle moment for John to see that you were inspired by his work, and now from that you've actually gone and taken that passion, and that's even like your vocation now.
Exactly. And I studied Spanish at university. I didn't really have an idea of what I wanted to do with my life. All I knew is that I loved languages. I loved traveling, cultures, that kind of thing. And so I did Spanish at university, but what I did is I got involved with the charity organisation. I got quite heavily involved in their Raising and Giving Society. And it was through that I had some amazing experiences. I did a lot more kind of charity work. And I did this. It was incredible, actually. It was a trip to Everest Base Camp. It was
wow.
My friend and I, we were like nominated international events coordinators. And through that, we were able to kind of basically create a project for the year, something abroad that would raise a lot of money for a charity. And we were kind of the project leaders. We got to choose the other 12 students that came with us.
That's so cool.
And that was an incredible project. And I think that is what I then spoke about in interviews, because I learned a lot of skills through that. And that, just all these little things then kind of led to where I am now. And that was kind of like got me into the charity sector, I think.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's so incredible that even just like how your life can change in one, like with one person, one event. Like, can you imagine if you weren't at that school assembly or,
Who knows where I'd be?
That's so powerful. So did you actually get to go to Everest Base Camp?
Yeah, we did.
Wow.
We spent the year, we basically, my friend and I planned the whole trip. So we kind of organised all the logistics of the event, the kind of contact in Nepal who would do the trip with. We were raising money for Macmillan Cancer Support at the time. We had a close friend at the university whose father had sadly just passed away. So we were, and I think obviously a lot of people have been touched by cancer. So it was, collectively, it was a charity. Everyone said, yes, we want to raise money for this charity. And then, we kind of planned the fundraising throughout the year, what we were all going to do. And at the end of the year, once everyone had kind of raised, we raised about 15 grand, which was brilliant.
Wow.
We did the trek.
That's incredible.
And we all made it, which is really rare, because often with the altitude, one or two people will get too sick and they'll have to kind of go back down. But actually I think all 14 of us made it to base camp. So
yes.
We're absolutely thrilled.
What a successful and empowering trip. That is incredible, because that's very common that you just, and unfortunately you can train as much as possible for that. But at the end of the day, some people just react differently to the altitude, don't they? So that's so special that all of you managed to make it. That's incredible. So you've done work with John and obviously the Everest project. Have there been other fundraising projects that you've personally been involved with?
I did a bit of fundraising, actually kind of inspired by one of our supporters. I recently did my own little fundraiser, which is just during lockdown, obviously with everything happening, and the marathon, all the marathons being cancelled. I took part in the 2.6 challenge.
Yes.
Which is where everyone was encouraged to do something related to the numbers 2 and 6. So I decided to run a marathon within 7 days, which I think for some people will probably be doable, but I was not a runner at all before. So
no, that's impressive.
Yeah, weird. I decided to do it about 3 weeks before the week where everyone was doing their 2.6 challenges. And I just thought, you know what, let's do this. Yes. I trained as much as I could. And then within the 3 weeks, I raised £1,300 for the Clic Sargent, which I think was good. And I did it. And I actually, it's mind over matter sometimes, isn't it? Because you kind of get up and you think, right, I've got to run 6K today, so I'm just going to get up and do it. And afterwards I found it really hard to run, 3 times a week just to get that motivation. But
yeah, absolutely.
You know you've got to do it. You just, mentally you just got to make yourself get up and go.
Yeah, go on, Rose. Good job.
I'm saying, speaking to you who does a marathon every other month.
No, not at all. But that's the whole point, right? It doesn't matter where you're from or what skill level you're at. Everyone has something to bring to the table. And for someone who doesn't usually run at all, to suddenly run 26.2 miles in the space of a week is a huge achievement. Yeah.
And I think I just wanted to kind of do my bit as well for the charity at a time when obviously they were facing quite a lot of losses. So I think that's just it, just trying to do your bit, get involved.
Massively. And you don't know who that would have then also gone on to inspire, someone else who's not really a runner and thinking, oh, well, I didn't think Rose really ran, but if she's going to give it a go, maybe I'll give it a go.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome.
Isn't it?
Yeah, exactly that. And as I mentioned earlier, you are the Fundraising and Engagement Manager for Sussex and Surrey at Clic Sargent. When was Clic Sargent created and what does that charity hope to contribute to the world?
So Clic Sargent was actually formed out of two charities. So it was the Leukemia in Children was a charity, and then the Malcolm Sargent Cancer Care for Children was a charity. And I think it was in 2005 they merged to become Clic Sargent.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of talk about the name because it's not one of those charities that kind of says what it does on the tin.
Yeah.
And a lot of people remember Malcolm Sargent and everything he did for Children's Cancer Charity. So it's a lot of people feel very passionately about the name. But so the aim of the charity is basically just to be there for every family going through a child with cancer. We don't do treatment, but we do kind of everything else. So as we said earlier, that kind of like emotional support. If people just need that shoulder to cry on or somebody to talk to, if they need somebody to kind of explain everything in a more easy to understand way. Often I think with all the nurses kind of coming and going, it can all just get a bit hectic and confusing. Whereas the social workers, they have the time just to like sit down and explain everything properly. And also the other kind of sides of what we do is we have our homes from homes. We have 10 homes from homes across the UK. And these are basically kind of safe. They're basically havens for families where they can stay right next to their child in hospital. And they stay there completely free of charge for as long as they need, whether it's a night or 8 months, they can stay as long as they need. They're really lovely. I've been to one of Jean's house in Southampton. They're amazing. They really are. You feel like you're at home. Just living rooms, self-catered kitchens. The bedrooms are all just really cozy and lovely. And it's just a really nice place for the family to go like after being in hospital.
Yeah.
Just relax, basically.
It's beautiful.
And I think we just want to alleviate all the kind of the stress and the worry as much as we can for families, whether that's through kind of financial support that's going to help them or just through that kind of emotional and practical support as well. So a lot of times we have, students, whether that's young children in schools or students coming out of university, and they need just things like speaking to tutors so to get work so they don't fall behind. Like that can just be a bit of an admin faff for the young person, the parent, phone calls, all that kind of thing. So that's, our social workers are there just to kind of do all that admin and just make the lives a lot easier for parents.
Absolutely. And it's been such a privilege to get to know more people in the Clic Sargent community, either people who are just happen to fundraise because they really value and support what the charity's doing. And then the most humbling experience has been people who have actually who have received help from the charity, whether it is them themselves as a young cancer patient or family members. And they've really explained how life-changing that has been. So even though they're not actually receiving the necessarily the medical support from Clic Sargent, which is in itself is life-changing to help against the cancer, but things like when your world is falling apart and you've received this news that you are trying to comprehend, actually trying to read admin is the last thing that your mind can concentrate on or that you can process. So to have someone there to make sense of those forms, or even, like you say, little things people don't even think about, like speaking to tutors so you don't fall behind in the other parts of your life, is huge.
That's just it. Yeah. We just don't want cancer to, destroy lives or destroy futures, because, sometimes it's going to take a good 2 years out of a young person's life. But we want to be there to then help them kind of rebuild their lives so they do have a future after cancer, and it doesn't just, destroy their lives effectively. We want to rebuild their confidence, rebuild their skills, and then, see them.
Exactly. And I've witnessed Clic Sargent on their rebranding journey, and I think you really have done such an incredible job. Even things like part of your one of your slogans being helping them thrive, not just survive, right? And people don't realize the journey of cancer. It's not the battle of actually the illness itself is one part of it, but the other part is actually trying to get some normality back into your life and try and not let other parts of your life kind of fall behind is another huge part of that.
Absolutely, yeah. And we've got some wonderful volunteers who come and they share their stories to different kind of groups or organisations. And a lot of them say, just that their social worker really helped them regain their skills and build their confidence. And now they want to kind of give back in a way that they can. They want to share their experience to kind of raise awareness and just, show the world that their cancer hasn't defined them. They're now doing amazing things. And they want to say, Clic Sargent really helped me become who I am today and be here today. So,
yeah, and what a just unbelievable and beautiful sign of strength, I guess, as well. That not only have they spent so much time to dealing with cancer and overcoming that, but then to decide to give that time to give back and help others that might be in the same situation, and inspire and empower others. I just think it's beautiful.
Yeah, I think it is. And also a lot of people really want to help spread awareness, because it's amazing how many people just don't really know that childhood cancer is a thing. Like, I think we're one of those charities that people haven't really heard about us unless they've kind of experienced us or they know somebody who's been supported by us. So I think we're just, a lot of what we do is really trying to spread awareness, spread the word of what Clic Sargent do. And that's what our volunteers, they're really, really kind of helpful in doing that with us.
Yeah, and I think you're so right. I originally started fundraising for Clic Sargent in memory of my school friend, Rob. And I not only wanted to help the charity continue to do their incredible work, but I also wanted to raise awareness for cancer in young adults, as it's unfortunately more common than people think. And I know it certainly was a huge and very sad wake-up call for myself to lose a friend to cancer at the age of 21. And I remember suddenly this fear of realizing actually even at that age we're not invincible. There are diseases that we need to be aware of, and I don't think cancer will ever not be a scary topic of conversation, but I've learned that it's such an incredibly important conversation to have in terms of spreading awareness and teaching people the signs to look out for in terms of if there's any changes to their body. With the popularity of social media platforms, do you think that more conversations around cancer are happening now, and if awareness is starting to grow?
I think so. I think it is, definitely. I think social media is a huge kind of help in doing that. And that's another thing that we encourage our volunteers and our supporters to do, and that's just share our content. So the more people it reaches, the more people are going to know. So I think it's definitely been a useful tool for our charity and charities in general. And then also kind of awareness months or days. So we have our World Cancer Day on the 4th of February that we use as kind of a tool for fundraising and spreading awareness. And also Childhood Cancer Awareness Month in September, which has just gone. Again, we call on our volunteers and our supporters to do what they can in their communities to kind of spread the word. We had one of my amazing volunteers in West Sussex. She recently, she did a awareness campaign for Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, and it was the gold campaign. So she basically turned her whole town gold.
Wow.
Amazing. It was they had kind of gold ribbons up all over the town that were sponsored by different companies. She spoke to loads of different shops to get them involved. Lots of them turned their window displays gold. Just things like that, just to kind of help spread awareness and get people kind of talking about childhood cancer.
Yeah, and it's so created. Certainly over the years that I've been involved with Clic, Sargent, I think certainly September, I'm seeing a lot more awareness, more people turning their profiles gold and coming up with new ideas. And it's certainly a really special month for me because I have more people come to me and say, what's this gold ribbon? What does that mean? And can you tell me a little bit more about childhood cancer awareness? And I think the rebranding was so smart. I believe did that happen in 2017? Because I think that was in time. We were just doing our first record. We were doing the Scooby-Doo Mystery Machine.
This was pre-me, obviously, but I have seen a photo that looks absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, we were. So I started running for Clic Sargent 2015, and in 2016 I ran the London Marathon on my own. Thought it was going to be a one and done experience, and I very quickly got the marathon bug. And I'm someone that I can be very stubborn. I'm quite determined. And I remember I'd finished the marathon. I was really disappointed with how many people, all with good intentions, but they all wanted to know about my time. Like, what time did you finish in? And there I am. I've run a marathon in memory of my friend, and I'm in a Clic Sargent charity vest. And I found it so interesting that especially the London Marathon, which is so well known for having such a different variety of runners and being such a big charity supporter, I found it so fascinating that the first question nearly every single person asked me was, what was my time? And not very much about the charity. So I kind of got a bee in my bonnet about it. So I was like, right. So I was like, what can I do to change this? Because I'm all for running a fast time, but for me, it's about the charity, and I want people to know about Clic Sargent and the work they do. So it was literally the week after the marathon. I was like, what can I do? And I was like, do you know what? I'm going to do it again, but I need to do something bigger and really in people's faces about Clic Sargent. So they have no option but to ask about the charity. And I thought maybe I could do a costume. And we were really, really blessed that year. Clic Sargent had pulled a lot of us in 2016 to a Facebook group, and it really became such a incredible community online, which I'd never had experience before. I kind of get scared with technology. I'm not really a online person, but I just was so moved by this group and all of the stories, which was so powerful because I'd come to Clic Sargent in memory of my friend Rob, and very quickly after hearing all these stories, you're running for everyone, really, for every person that you've heard of and that is struggling. And it was such a beautiful community, and we all were supporting each other, and it was very fun and silly group. And it was through that I met some people. So I met my friend David, and I spoke to him that week, and he said, do you think you're going to run the marathon again? And I was like, yeah, but I'm really upset that people aren't asking about Clic Sargent enough. Like, it's about the time. So, and they're definitely going to ask about a time if I run it again. So I need to do something about this. So I brought up the idea of the costume, and he was like, that was cool. Like, maybe I could do that as well. And then I said, this sounds crazy, but what if we did something like a Guinness World Record? And David looked it up, and we saw that no one had ever run in a 5-person costume before. So this all, and then we thought, who are 5 people would know, and let's have a young theme, some kids would know. And we very quickly came up with the idea of Scooby-Doo. So that was in the week after that first marathon. So talk about getting the marathon bug. And then the rest was history, really. We very quickly got some other people from the Clic Sargent group, which is crazy considering most of us had never ever met in person before. We'd only ever spoken online. Most people doing a Guinness World Record are in the same area. They train in the same area. We lived in completely different parts of the UK, but we were like, we're all determined to put Clic Sargent on the map. So we're like, let's make it happen. And it was kind of serendipitous because that year, Clic Sargent were also rebranding to be Young Lives versus Cancer. So we were like, yes, this is perfect. And we're going to also, so if I had £1 for every person that said, could you have made your costume a bit smaller? Did it need to be that big?
Really?
Yeah, that could have been lighter. Clic Sargent would be rich, but the whole point, I was as a team, we were like, how obnoxiously big can we get away with making this machine? Because Clic Sargent logo is going everywhere.
Love it.
Yeah, long story short, it was in time for the rebranding. We ran in 2017. The logo was on everything. It ended up in the media. It was one of my proudest moments to be running the London Marathon and running past people and hear them say, oh, Clic Sargent, Young Lives versus Cancer. I've not heard of that one before. Or, oh, it's a young cancer charity. People actually seeing it and understanding what Clic Sargent's about. So yeah, I think the rebranding was great because certainly the year before, a lot of people, if they did ask afterwards or explained who I was running for, said, oh, I've never heard of that one, or what does Clic Sargent do? So I think putting the Young Lives versus Cancer in there was such a smart move.
Definitely. I also love how you did that. I love how you just thought, no, this isn't good enough. I need to change this. And then bam.
I had a real bee in my bonnet. So yeah, I wouldn't say no to me. I wouldn't. It's good that you're a yes girl. So yeah, I went from people not asking about it to, right, I'm going to put this in the biggest selling franchise book of all time. Here we go.
Fantastic.
So yeah, and I couldn't have done it without the team. So we did a team of 5 for Scooby-Doo in 2017. And then 2018, we were the Ghostbusters. And it was a lot of fun. So yeah, it's incredible. And you're in charge of the Sussex and Surrey area. What has leading this community meant to you? And what have you learned from all the fundraisers in your community?
They're just absolutely amazing. Honestly, every day I come in, I have different phone calls with people who call up and they say, I've got this idea, I want to do this, can you help me out? Or they're all absolutely inspirational. So recently, throughout lockdown, I supported a fantastic man called Ali in Surrey. Mm-hmm. And this is just an example of kind of inspirational people I work with daily. Ali he's a teacher at a school in Surrey. Mm-hmm. And really sadly, earlier this year, one of his pupils, who's a guy called Sargent, about 18, he was diagnosed with osteosarcoma, a form of bone cancer. And Ali's taught Sargent throughout the whole year. They were actually on a minibus going on a ski trip. And Sargent's parents called Ali and they said, you've got to get him off the bus. he'd had some test results. They thought it was like a sports injury.
Yeah.
And it came back with cancer. So Ali is he's been there throughout the whole journey. He then basically saw what Sachin was going through with the chemotherapy. He was obviously taking time out of school. And he wanted to do something to kind of mirror Sachin's journey. And he just wanted to show Sachin kind of how supported he was and how everyone was like there with him throughout everything he was going through. So Ali decided to run 1,000 kilometers in 100 days throughout lockdown.
Wow, that is no mean feat.
Not at all. And he wasn't a runner. He said he hasn't really, he said he could do the odd 5K here or there, but that was it. So every day he was running, 10K on average. It's absolutely incredible.
Wow. When
I first spoke to him, he said, look, I think, I'll probably raise about $3,000 to see how it goes. And then by the end, on his final day, he ran a marathon. We had BBC breakfast there. Sachin was there to kind of cheer him on. We were all there at the school that they both, Sachin goes to and Ali teaches at, to kind of cheer him in. And yeah, he raised £21,000. And
wow,
absolutely incredible. And his determination to do this, amazing thing to kind of show Sachin how much he cared, but also to raise money for Clic Sargent, because he, recognised how important the charity was to families like Sachin's. Yeah. I just thought it was an absolute inspiration.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah. I think it's just I just feel very fortunate to be able to kind of, speak to all these amazing people on a daily basis who people like you, Meg, people who just want to do something out of the goodness of their own heart to help a really good cause, and to help others who could really do with that kind of support. So it's a fantastic kind of area to work in, and I'm just really fortunate to get to speak to all these amazing people every day.
Yeah, that's incredible. And £21,000 anyway. What sort of things could that money go on? How would Clic Sargent use some of that money?
What we could use that money for is putting up families in our homes from homes, as I kind of talked about, alleviating that that pressure. On average, families are spending £600 a month more when a child has cancer.
Gosh.
Often they're having to travel kind of 60 miles extra on average a month. 60 miles to get to their specialist treatment centre. So that money is going to go towards financial support for families. So, alleviating that burden, and also, enabling families to kind of, stay in our homes. And then also the kind of financial aspect. So for families already struggling, who are already in kind of financial hardship, that £600 extra a month is just, it can be absolutely devastating on their financial situation.
Absolutely.
So I think it will just, go towards that. And also our social workers, go towards funding our social workers who can be there for the families, for whatever they need. They do an absolutely amazing job. I was speaking to Lynn at the Royal Marsden the other day, and I just happened to ask her, if she had any young people from South Croydon, because I was doing a talk at a local Rotary club. And she gave me a couple of examples, and she was telling me about one of the families she was supporting. So she was supporting this lovely mother of a child, but they, due to the cancer, they'd been forced out of their home because they couldn't afford basically to pay private rent.
Oh my goodness.
So Lynn was then that person who was liaising with the kind of council to find her social housing, which she did. She then got her into this social housing. They didn't realise there was absolutely nothing in there in terms of fridge, washing machine. Awful. So then Lynn then reached out to other charities who could then support, providing, the just basics that this family needed. And you just think, oh my gosh, it's just absolutely horrendous. So, and then, so it's just our social workers are there for kind of all these different aspects that come with the kind of cancer diagnosis that you probably wouldn't think about in the first instance. So
yeah. And it's amazing because Clic Sargent have these big financial supports in terms of places like the home away from homes, which I can only imagine if a family's dealing with the worst, and then to have your child miles and miles away from you, to have something like your home away from homes where they can actually be close to their loved one would mean everything in that situation. But even on a smaller scale level, you have like little books that you can use to explain to young children who are going through cancer to help explain that in more simpler terms?
Yeah, we have little storybooks. They're kind of, picture books that the play specialists, they kind of describe to the young child what's going to happen in terms of their treatment journey. They often use toys and kind of, puppets, and they just kind of explain it in a way that the child can understand. So it just kind of makes it all a bit just less scary, really. So I think that's just something that's just really important for the young people to kind of understand what's happening.
Well, so important. I often think you try and put yourself in other people's shoes, don't you, to empathize, and you think as an adult, how would I comprehend that, and that how my life is going to change and what that treatment's going to be like. So to try and explain that to a young child must be hugely difficult. So to have something like a resource like that can make it less scary, that must be so important to parents.
Absolutely, yeah. I think it really helps the parents as well, just knowing that their child's just understanding everything a bit easier, and they've got that kind of professional support.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, and I think it's so important to let people know about resources like that, because £21,000, what an incredible amount. But even just a £5, or a £10 can go such a long way to helping and help fund things like the books. That are all important resources, and it's going back to our earlier discussion of that. It's coming together, and the whole community of people fundraising is what, at the end of the day, is going to make the massive difference.
Absolutely, yeah. It's fantastic having this community of people who are all, willing to do their bit to help the charity.
And has your idea of community evolved as you've spent more time with Clic, Sargent?
Well, it's definitely. I actually now look after Middlesex and Berkshire as well.
Wow. Okay, you kept that quiet.
Yeah. My own little community has actually expanded.
So it's literally expanded. Yeah.
Yeah, it has actually literally just recently grown, and again, it's it's quite sad because it's obviously due to the whole restructure and everything the charity's been through. Mm-hmm. The scope of our work has obviously increased, so we're all covering slightly larger areas. Mm-hmm. But it means that I've been in touch with some amazing supporters in Berkshire and Middlesex, and these wonderful volunteers who all just want to support us. It's listening to the supporters, the volunteers, and then matching them with kind of opportunities that can come up, and kind of celebrating their successes when they do, when people do kind of do amazing things, so shouting about it, sharing everything on social media. I think for me, it's just wanting everyone in my community to know how much we appreciate what everyone is doing, mm-hmm. however large or small that is. I think a large part of my role is, celebrating the successes and shouting about what people are doing, and helping them kind of achieve fundraise as much as they can, and just wanting to encourage people to carry on supporting Clic, Sargent and have fun while they're doing it as well.
Yeah, step out of their comfort zone. And I know you've talked about people like Ali doing these incredible challenges. Are there any other standout fundraising ideas that you could share that you've learned about over the last year or so?
That's somebody who I've been in touch with again recently, who kind of stands out for me, is this lovely guy. His godson was diagnosed, again, 1 year old, and he's currently going through treatment. And he got in touch just to say, I really want to show the family that I'm there for them, and I want to kind of do my bit, but I don't really know what to do. And Clic, Sargent have been supporting them. He said Clic, Sargent have been absolutely amazing. The social work has just been there for them. So he really wanted to do something for Clic, Sargent. And so Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, he decided to walk 120 miles throughout the month, which is 60 miles on average to get to a specialist treatment centre. So he wanted to double that.
Wow.
He also kind of shaved his head off. His godson lost all his hair, so he wanted to do the same. And he's also going to do 3 peats next year. He wants to do a fishing tournament in February. But the thing that really, really struck me was he said that he's has really bad depression and been in like a really dark place the past year. And he said that obviously what he's doing is to kind of show family that, you know, he's there for them and he wants to support the charity. But he said it's actually really helping him do this kind of positive thing, fundraising, you know, for charity. And he said that he's actually now feeling in such a better place because he feels like, you know, he's got some kind of direction, something to focus on. And I just thought that was quite powerful as well, that, you know, the effect that fundraising can have on people. It's not always just about what the activity. It's also actually quite, you know, it's kind of an outlet. It can help people feel like they're contributing and doing something positive. Hugely.
I mean, even like the amount of people that I've met at Clic Sargent that maybe haven't been directly affected by cancer in a young person or know someone affected, but that idea of wanting to do something that is bigger than themselves, right? And wanting to make this positive change. And it really does build momentum, because even if you don't know someone through the charity, you meet other fundraisers and learn about their story. And like I said, in the end, it's like you're fundraising for everyone.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's just it.
Yeah, it's incredible, and the creativity you see as well. For anyone that maybe isn't a sporty person, what ways could you suggest to get involved? What fundraising ideas have you seen that are maybe slightly out the box? How because there are so many ways people can fundraise, right?
Yeah, and often it kind of, you know, often it could also be that if you can't do anything yourself, or you know, you're not sporty, or you don't really, not sure what to do. Often it could be, I think, about your networks. So if you work somewhere that has a CSR policy and they do fundraising and they choose a charity partner each year, you could then encourage them to choose Clic Sargent. Or if you have friends who are, you know, in fitness or fitness instructors, potentially they could then hold a Clic Sargent fundraiser for us. So it's not always necessarily the person that could do the fundraising. It's also, you know, using their network, seeing who they know, and seeing where there are kind of opportunities to you know, potentially raise money for Clic Sargent.
Absolutely, and it's so great to give back, right? And also to share that with the community. I know I got in touch with my old school and was like, hey, me again. I'm not coming back to school, but I absolutely love my time there. I've started to do fundraising with this really incredible charity that works with young people. And I know you've got your sponsored walk coming up. I would absolutely love for you to consider using Clic Sargent and fundraising for them in a future event, because often schools or businesses might have multiple events throughout the year and they'll pick a charity.
Yeah, that's just it. And you know what, with schools, one of the best fundraisers for schools is a wet sponge in the teacher's face.
Yes.
You can get a lot of teachers who are willing to, you know, have a wet sponge thrown in their face. Kids absolutely, they go mad for it. They'll put all the pounds in the bucket to do it. So,
I'm not sure the teachers win, but the kids win every time.
Teachers are doing their bit.
And you know, everyone loves to throw a sponge.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there are just so many ways, and it's so beautiful to see the creativity and the positivity that brings out from people. How would you like to see Clic Sargent continue to develop?
So I think at the moment, as I said, we've obviously lost a few staff members, which is difficult because we've had an increase in demand for our services from, you know, worried families throughout the pandemic, or people who've lost their jobs, so they need more financial support. So actually there's a lot more pressure on our kind of frontline services team at the moment. However, you know, we've obviously lost we've lost staff, so we still need to raise more money probably than before, however, with less people. So I think moving forward, we need the support of our volunteers, basically, to kind of be our ears and eyes in the community, to be able to go out to businesses and have those conversations. I think that's how our kind of volunteers are so kind of integral to us, because they are the kind of eyes and ears. They know their little areas really well, and they can speak to a lot more people than we can, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So I think moving forward, just kind of working with our local volunteers and just increasing the kind of numbers of supporters we have kind of through our volunteers.
Yeah, absolutely. And I hope for anyone listening, they can be so inspired by Rose and the work that Clic Sargent are doing and the stories you've heard, because we can do so much as individuals. Like you've heard people like Ali doing this incredible running. You've heard about people turning their local area gold. But there's only so much we can do on our own right. And I think it's proven time and again that if what we can create together and as a mass of people. And part of the reason I wanted to start this podcast is to get people to look at who are they spending their time with, who is in their community, and what skills and what passions do they have to bring to the table. And I think that's so hugely important. And things like, we all are supported by a government. I think it was last month or maybe the month before, I wrote to my local MP. You know, there are budgets being decided. We do have local councils that are in charge of deciding where certain money goes towards. And let them know if there is something you are passionate about. They represent your local community, they represent you, and they are the spokesperson for your community. So it's so important to use resources like that to let them know and make them aware of the demand for services like Clic Sargent, and that you believe that money would be so vital to a resource like that.
Absolutely. And
it's as incredible as fundraising is, it can also take quite a lot of dedication and commitment. Certainly with some challenges, it can take a lot of energy. You know, Ali running 1,000 kilometers, you know, and he's not really been much of a runner before. And it's certainly in what's been such a difficult year for a lot of businesses and charities financially, it takes a lot of continued commitment and energy. How do you try to keep positive? And what motivates you personally?
I think in this role, what motivates me is the support, is the families who we support, and just hearing how much of an impact Clic Sargent has on them, and you know what they're going through. Like speaking to that lady the other day about the situation she's in with her niece and how much Clic Sargent are helping. It's just, you think, oh, you know, without that support, it would just be so much more difficult for them. So I think knowing how much of an amazing impact Clic Sargent is having in all the various ways on so many people, and getting to kind of speak to those people firsthand, I think that is definitely what drives me daily to like want to be the best at my job, raise as much money as I can, or, you know, help supporters raise as much as they can. And yeah, to kind of just celebrate all these people who are doing these wonderful things. And as well as that, I think the social workers, kind of speaking to the social workers on the front line, and just, you know, hearing the amazing work that they do on a day-to-day basis. Like people often say to me, how do you do what you do? It must be so challenging and so hard, and you must cry all the time. And I'm like, well, I'm actually one step removed in a way. You know, I do. Often there are tears, because you never know who's going to pick up the phone and what story you'll hear and how powerful that will be. But actually, it's speaking to the social workers that you just think, oh my goodness, you are doing such amazing work every day. They're just amazing. Like, they are superheroes in my eyes. I just don't know how they do it.
Couldn't agree more.
They're so positive, and the work they do is fantastic. So yeah, speaking to them and having regular contact with them, again, really, really motivates me to want to be the best I can be.
Yeah, you're right. And they really are the true superheroes in Capes, both the social workers and the young adults and their families. I have so many people say, gosh, how do you run a marathon? And for me, I was like, that to me is an easy part. It's the people that I am running for. You know, it's actually a privilege to be able to run and be healthy enough to run. The people that are superheroes and that I can't fathom the strength of are the people that are actually receiving the treatment, and the people who are providing the treatment and the support. So thank you for articulating that so well. Clic Sargent's work is truly life-changing, and I would love for more people to hear and experience their work. How can they do this, and where can they find you?
So please get in touch with me if anyone does want to get involved. I'd be more than happy to provide more information, or if anyone is interested in volunteering, again, I'd be happy to talk about the different roles that are on offer. As well as that, if anyone does work for a company that has a Charity of the Year program, I'd love to hear, speak more to you. If you could put us forward, that would be fantastic. We have different fundraising managers around the UK who'd be more than happy to kind of help, provide a pitch or an application or anything like that. And we have a lot of information online. We've got a lot of online resources, whether that's for our young people or fundraising resources. And also follow our kind of Instagram, Twitter, social media accounts. At the moment, we're doing a lot of young people are kind of taking over our Instagram. You can kind of, hear directly from the young people that we are supporting through our social media accounts and get a really good kind of idea of why the work Clic Sargent does is so important. Hear it firsthand from them.
Absolutely. And also check out the Clic Sargent website, because it also shares the partners that you work with. One of my favorite things is a lot of my friends know how much I love and care about Clic Sargent, and I'll randomly get a text and someone's shoving a bag of pasta in the front of the camera and it's got Clic Sargent on it because they've been to Morrison's, and there's certain products that will that Morrison's promote for Clic Sargent.
Yeah, we have our kind of every pack gives back.
Yes.
Morrison's. I think Metcalfe's popcorn was one of those for a while. So,
yes, I haven't had popcorn since. that shows my allegiance to the cause. I was definitely having a lot more popcorn in the Clic Sargent sponsor days.
Yeah, Morrison's are our corporate partner. They are absolutely brilliant. We work closely with the kind of community champion in each of the stores, and we're all kind of gearing up for Christmas now. So we've all been talking about different kind of Christmas fundraising ideas, but they're all absolutely brilliant. So look out. Yeah, if you do go into your local Morrison's around Christmas, there might be a Clic Sargent trolley raffle going on, or a tombola, or they've got some fantastic fundraising ideas. So yeah, please do support our local Morrison's stores.
Exactly. And it's almost come full circle, because if you're not like a baker, but you're an eater, then go to Morrison. Like that's your fundraising avenue. Go find the products with the Clic Sargent logo on it and enjoy the eating.
Yeah, please do.
That can be your valid contribution. There's so many ways.
So many ways to support us.
There really, really are. Before we end the show, can you think of any positive words of advice that you would like to leave us with, Rose?
I think just do what makes you happy, and be kind, be compassionate, listen to people, and yeah, spread the love.
Yes, those are excellent words of advice. And are there any upcoming events or projects people should know about? I know February that we have World Cancer Day.
It's all a bit tricky at the moment because with the pandemic, we're not entirely sure what kind of form it will take in February. There will be something coming up to mark World Cancer Day. Traditionally, we hold bucket collections in Morrison's. And we have an army of volunteers across the UK who get involved and sign up to a 3-hour slot and go and shake the bucket. However, this year, obviously, that's looking a bit different. So we're still working on kind of virtual plans. But yeah, if you follow our kind of social media, then we'll have some updates on there as and when they're all set.
Yeah, and using our positive energy, let's use that as inspiration to create some projects. Let's create some innovative ideas. Let's think of some virtual things to do. So for anyone listening, let that be your challenge this episode. Let's see how we can help Clic Sargent out. Rose Bailey, it's been so insightful to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time. You always bring the good vibes. Thank you for your positive energy and the incredible work you are doing to make positive change in the world. And thank you for being my kind of person.
Oh, Meg, thank you so much. Thank you for everything you've done for Clic Sargent over the years, and for just continuing to come up with new ideas that just blow us all away.
It's an absolute honour, and long live cake bake sales. That's all I'll say.
I love it. Every time you do something, I share it with my colleagues, and everyone always says, "Oh, isn't Meg great? And Meg's doing something again." And We love the quiz Sargent idea. That was fantastic. You've got a good army of support behind the scenes at Clic Sargent.
Oh, thank you. And thank you for the work you do. As I say, it's a privilege to do the fundraising activities and events, and the inspiration are the young people and the families that you're supporting. So thank you so much for being a support network to them.